Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we are going to be having a look at BTC. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so pretty much still looking at majority of the same ideas that we were talking about in yesterday's video. So we're just going to go over these briefly. The bullish one where we are looking for the potential that we have a wave 2 in place here, and that we're looking for the potential of looking for a bigger 5-wave move to the upside here, looking for a higher target here of this 41,917 for confirmation within this count. Now the internals of this that we would be looking at is counting that this as a diagonal, so this makes the probability of this already less likely, but it is technically still possible. We have held this low here so far towards this 29,701. A move down below this would invalidate this potential. Now what we're looking for here is a 5-wave move up towards this 32,852 to get confirmation of this count. Now the structure to the upside is currently looking like it is corrective, but sometimes we can get these moves building up like this before we start to see bigger moves to the upside, so we need to just be on the lookout for this. So looking at the internals of this count, what I am looking for here is that potentially we had this as 1-2 and we're looking at this as another 1-2 here. Invalidation of this count would come by crossing this 29,950, and what we need to see for a confirmation of this would actually be a bigger 5-wave push to the upside here towards this 32k region. Now the problem that we have here within this count is this move here is looking very corrective at the moment. We could argue that within here we have something like this where we have a diagonal pattern here, something like this as a contracting diagonal. Also we could potentially argue here that we could look at this as something like this where we get another 3-wave move to the upside here, looking for a 5th wave and then looking to hold support. Now the key thing within this is that if we lose this 30,192, the probabilities of this being an impulse from this point are less likely, and one of the corrective counts is more likely in this case. So looking at the corrective count, what we are saying here is that we could be potentially completed into this high rather, and what we are looking for is a bigger corrective move to the downside, target box being this 29,699, which would be a very rare target. We have this slightly less rare target here of this 28,693, and then we have the common area, which would actually be lower down here towards this 27,905 to this 26,084. Invalidation of this idea of continuation to the upside comes by crossing this 24,800. So within this count, what we are looking for effectively is that this move is either A, B, and we get a C wave, or alternatively 1, 2, and then we get a bigger 3rd wave. So this is going to be our key support zone, and we really, towards this zone here of this 28,693 would be a good area to keep an eye on, particularly if we're getting this as a complex move here. We could see something like this as another move to the downside. So if we are looking at that idea here that we could be looking for this as a bigger complex correction, the way that I'm currently looking at it is we were talking about this potential here, but this B wave is starting to get quite big, where this could be A, we look for a B, and then we're looking for this C wave to the downside. Now it is technically possible that we could still be within this B wave, and what I'm looking for here as potential upside targets would be this 31,431 to this 31,000 and to this 31,000 level. Now we have actually moved up already into this. Now if this is W, X, and then this is a Y wave to the upside, it would be very short in comparison. What I'm looking for rather is that this B wave could be something like this. If we do look to complete here and break down in 5 waves, potentially we could have this as A, B, and C. Now if we do look to move down from this point, our 1-to-1 would actually be here at this 29,147, and then I would also be keeping an eye out on these lower target areas here, this 28,714 to this 28k region. So these could be potential zones if we've actually completed this B wave into this point here. However, if this B wave is still in play here and we're going to see one more push to the upside, I will be keeping an eye on first these lower target levels here and this central channel line, as then if we are looking at this idea of a bigger flat correction, this 32,202 and this 31,906 would be the next areas I'm watching. Would also align with coming in and sweeping this blue line here, which is a previous swing high. So going to be keeping an eye on that if we do see price move up into those levels. Now we do have CPI today, so we need to be careful of that. It's going to be volatile. Potentially we need to be on the lookout for that possibility of some volatility coming into the market. Okay, so this is looking at the idea of this as a bigger corrective move, where we look at this as ABC. Now, we could argue this is instead of WXY, where it could be completed here. However, if we do see something like this, A, B, and then C, or alternatively A, B, and then C, this could align with still being within this B wave. 1-to-1 target currently is this 31,600. 602, and then we also do have this 1236 up here towards this 32k, which I would be keeping an eye on. So need to be careful with this one. We could still actually be looking to play to the upside in this way, but we do also have bearish continuation possibility to the downside if we fail to actually take this high of this 31,505. So looking at the internals of this, what I'm saying is that, you know, we could have this as a 3-wave move here, and now if we want to take this as an A wave here, we could have this as a B wave to the upside. Now I wouldn't look at this in this way anymore if we start to break back above this 31,049, but for as long as we're below that, I'm on the lookout for this possibility. We could see a C wave come in. Now, our current target for 1-to-1 would actually be this 30,003, and then the 1236 would actually be here at this 29,806. What we need to be careful with this one is that if we actually start to break down past this 1618 level here, this 29,489, what we could see is a bigger 5-wave sequence to the downside, in which case this could be a C wave to the downside looking to play out. So we're going to go over that in a second, but if we do actually see this breakdown here, this is an interesting idea that I've got here, is that potentially we could look at this as a bigger flat correction that could still look to play out. This would mean that what we would see is basically a dump to the downside, looking to target this zone of this 29,701 to this 29,202. Most common area would be lower down here, but you know, this higher target is still a potential here towards this 29,701. If we do see something like this, where we actually come back down here, sweep these lows, then we could see something like this as a 5-wave move coming back to the upside here, looking to sweep these highs, and then potentially looking for that possibility of that continuation afterwards. If we had to see something along these lines here, what I would be on the lookout for is that this could be still our bigger ABC pattern to the downside. So we need to just be careful that if we get a flat over here, that potentially we could still look for that continuation to the downside afterwards. So that is going to be key here. If we do get a 5-wave move to the upside, we're going to have to wait for that retracement and finding support again above the low, depending on how deep we come here. If we had to come down to this 29,202, our 1618 would actually be up here towards this 31,355, which would align with actually doing something like this, where we actually get 3 waves up, 3 waves down, move back up into this central channel line, possibly sweep this high, and then look for that continuation to the downside. Alternatively, if we do look to push down here and we cross this 1618, we just need to be careful that this isn't actually a completed corrective move in this way to the downside here. So we need to be on the lookout. There's many ways of currently counting this. If we're looking at that bullish case, we need to continue to hold these higher lows. If we start to sweep these, then we need to be on the lookout for something like this as a potential flat in the middle of this structure. Now, it is possible we are within this rejection zone. We did actually reject off this high, that this could just be A, B, and we get a C wave down. So this is what I'm saying. If we start to see 5 waves to the downside, potentially we could see a move down towards this 1-to-1 target that we've got here. And if we do overshoot that, some targets in relationship to the W wave here would actually be this 29,451. So these are aligning. But then if we do move down low, we have 29,000, 28,764, 28,746, and this 28,319 as possible targets to the downside here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those. Now, if for the more bearish scenario here, what we need to be careful of is that, like I said, we could see this actually play out as a 5-wave move, where we see this as 1, 2, we get 3, 4, and then 5 to the downside. Now, if we do see this actually come down into these levels, effectively what we'd be looking for would be the idea of coming down into this 1-to-1. Now, if we do form a 5-wave move down like this, we need to be careful, because this could just be A, B, and C, and it's completed. But if we fail to actually break back above these highs, what we could actually start developing is that this could be a 1-2. We get a 1-2 here, and then this move starts to break down in a bigger way. So we need to be very careful of that idea of that continuation down, because we are starting to form 5-wave structure down. We need to be careful until we actually break back above 31,507. There is always that potential that this could develop into something bigger. Now, if this is looking to develop into a 5-wave move to the downside, confirmation would be down here towards this 28,228 currently, and then what we'd be looking for would be an additional 4th and a 5th wave to the downside, looking to target out 27,994 to this 27,611 as a possible 5-wave move to the downside. Now, if we do see something like this, this would align with coming back down here towards this 50% level. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this towards this 27,000 908 as a possible zone. We could get a reaction if we do start to break down in a bigger 5-wave move here. So need to keep an eye on these levels and see how the price is reacting. Looking at the daily CPR points here, what we can see is that we have got control of these central lines and we are currently above them. We did move up to this S1 target. So what I want to see here is if we do see a retracement down, whether we hold this 30,598 to this 30,552. If we do manage to hold this zone, potentially we could see price be gravitated to the upside. Upside targets for today are this 31,095. We have this 31,366 and this 31,600 as potential upside targets. If, however, we start to lose these levels, what we could actually see is price be gravitated to the downside here towards this R1 target at this 30,341. We have this 30,066, this 29,826 and this 29,543 as potential targets. So some of these would be interesting, particularly this R2 target as coming back into the support zone. So going to be keeping an eye on that, as well as that if we do see a push to the upside here, I would be interested to see how we react around this 31k region, looking to potentially retest this high over here. So going to be keeping an eye on those. Now if we switch these over onto the weekly, what we can see is that we are currently still above these weekly CPR lines. Upside targets are this 31,208, we have 32,248 and this 33,000 level. So if we do see price look to push back to the upside here, I would be very interested to see how we react around this central channel line. Now price can always just move directly through these, but sometimes we can see price pivoting off these ranges. So need to keep an eye on these levels and see if we start to get this push up. If, however, we start to break down here and we start to turn these into resistance, potential downside targets would be this 29,409. As a R1, we do have the R2 at this 28,659 and this 27,616 as potential downside targets here. So these do have some alignment here with the 0.382 over here at this 28,699, and then this 50% idea would actually be looking to possibly come down a little bit deeper here towards this weekly CPR line. Having a look at the monthly here, what we can see is that we are currently above the top line here, which is sitting at this 29,686. If we do see price move back to the downside, I would be interested, particularly in that idea where we're looking at this as something like a flat correction. We could actually look to retest this level and then look for that possibility of a move to the upside from that point. But if we start to lose this higher line, what we could see is price come back down towards this 28,910, which would align with coming down towards this 382. And then we also have this 28,117, which would align to coming back towards this 50% level. Now upside targets, if we do continue to hold these for this month, could be this level here of this S1 at this 32,995, this S2 at this 35,530, and this S3 up here towards this 39,636 as potential upside targets. As well as that, if we do look at our downside targets, what we have here is this 26,363, which would actually be aligning with coming back into the previous channel that we were in and actually looking to come back into the zone of the 702 to the 786. If we look deeper here, we do also have other targets which are sitting towards this 22,271 and this level here of this 19,741 as possible downside targets that we could still look to move towards during this month. Now we don't have to hit these targets, these are just potential pivot points within the market, so just going to be keeping an eye on these as the price develops. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description you'll find a link to Discord. Come check it out, it is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.